All right, welcome back to the Run.down post-game show here on the Strickland YouTube channel, Strickland Twitter, and if you listen to this the day after Strickland Podcast Network, I am Sam. Knicks win 118-85 over the Pelicans, who have been struggling recently. Very dominant win. We'll get into all that, of course, or I'll get into all that, of course. Shout out to BetOnline, the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, BetOnline provides you with all the action and the ability to watch the games as they happen. With the largest selection of odds on everything from football, NBA, NHL to entertainment and political props, head to BetOnline today to get in on the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering. BetOnline, the game starts here. All right, so I guess we can dub this one the Mikal Bridges game. Much maligned for his performances, especially during the road trip. I saw a tweet of Mikal's stats during the road trip, and it was around like 13 points per game, shooting very poorly from the field and from three. Just absolutely abysmal performances from him during that road trip. But yeah. He finally woke up today. I mean, it was the perfect opponent, I would say, to get this type of game off. Pelicans missing a whole litany of players from Jordan Hawkins to Brandon Ingram to Zion Williamson, Herb Jones, Jose Alvarado. So a good chunk of their actual mainstay rotation was out, and Knicks were able to take advantage of that. And one Mikal Bridges was able to put in a 31-point performance, 7 of 12 from three, including a bunch of above the break threes, which I know is something that a lot of fans, including myself, have been looking out for with him. And was 12 of 19 from the field, so just an all-around efficient game. And yeah, the Knicks just beat up on a really downtrodden team that they're expected to beat. I know last post game I mentioned that, you know, these Sunday games for the Knicks go one of two ways. You know, they either it's a blowout or, you know, they're like fighting with a team that they shouldn't be. So yeah. All right. I mean, there isn't really much to go into detail with this game. I mean, mainly Mikal looking like the player that we traded for, at least on the offensive side of the ball. Just absolutely scorching today. We'll get to some other players, of course, but hopefully this can be the start of Mikal's resurgence on offense. I know a lot of fans are also worried about his defense. Tonight isn't really the game that you're looking for in terms of you're not really looking to see where his defense was, because I mean, I don't think the Knicks really had to dial in on that end consistently to really win this game, and you saw that they were up by 25 to 30 points majority of the night just because the Pelicans couldn't buy a basket, and they just also don't have enough talent out there either. But yeah, shout out to Mikal, you know, hoping that he can flip this switch on both ends, and hopefully this is the game that does that for him. I guess another standout performance from tonight's game was OG Anunoby on the defensive side. 7 stocks, 3 steals, 4 blocks. Had probably one of the blocks, if not the block of the year so far, on Daniel Tice, which led to one of those Mikal threes. Amazing sequence right there. That's kind of what you imagined what this team would look like when these two have it going. On the offensive side of the ball, though, OG still in that little slump after that 40-point game. Really hasn't even cracked double digits since that game. So that's something to at least keep an eye on. The Knicks do have a little bit of a softer schedule in this December to January stretch. Hopefully the Knicks can, you know, rattle off some wins and guys can start getting into rhythm. Especially as we, you know, have this final cup game for against the Magic. Another standout performance from tonight would be Karl-Anthony Towns with the 14 points, 19 rebounds, had 17 rebounds at halftime. That is probably, I'm sure Jordan Bub has it here, and I'll get to it in a minute on how ridiculous of a stat that was. But he was absolutely cleaning up the glass today. And yeah, the Pelicans, I mean, they barely have any players, any bigs to begin with. So, yeah. Josh Hart giving you his normal, 12-6. Didn't have as much rebounds just because he didn't play as much, and I guess you could say that he didn't also need to do as much on the glass because Cat was taking care of business tonight. But, typical Josh Hart stat line, 12-6, 3 assists, 2 steals, a block, hit some threes, just doing everything that you need Josh Hart to do out there. And yeah. Jalen Brunson with 16 points and 9 assists. Really good to see him getting those assist numbers up. He's really getting these teammates involved, finding guys. He found Mikal in a couple cuts to the basket that actually got Mikal some layups, which is something that we don't see that often from Mikal Bridges, and I think that's one of the things that a lot of fans have been harping on with all the concerns that we have for Mikal. I mean, you had Josh Hart after the game on Friday. Friday afternoon, and he was saying, he's basically saying that we need to get these guys going. We need to get Mikal going as a team. And, it doesn't matter how many picks we paid, we gave up for him and whatnot. I get his sentiment as a person that, they don't really care about that stuff inside the locker room. Like, that doesn't matter to them. As fans, we pay attention to it much more just because we're concerned not only for the short term of this team, but also the long term of this team. And moves like this, if they don't go as expected, it does spell things for us as fans of the team long term. So, but yeah, pretty good win. I mean, we were able to get some solid garbage time minutes, like at least like 9 minutes of garbage time today. Matt Ryan got to come in, shoot some threes. Tyler Kolek got to give out some dimes. So, it's always a good performance when we can have some garbage time. McBride giving you his normal spark off the bench. Him and Campaign have really turned into a nice tandem off the bench, giving you consistent offense and consistent defense too. I mean, both of them they're getting after it at the point of attack, especially Deuce. Deuce with 13, 2 and 3, got a steal, hit 3 threes. Campaign 8, 3 and 5 with 2 steals, 2 blocks, and 2 threes. And yeah, just overall really consistent effort from both of them, I would say, over this extended stretch now, even going back to the road trip. So you're just hoping that Deuce and Campaign can continue to do this. We know Deuce can. Campaign, he's been up and down the last couple years, so we'll see what happens with him on that. But I mean, I've loved what I've seen from him so far. I call him, he's our run starter. Like, he gets run started for this team. So yeah. All right, let's get into some comments. Shout out to everyone that's here, tuning in, leaving some comments. I will try to get to all that I can. And yeah. Chris Bernhardt says, imagine being fooled by DeJounte Murray. My organization never would. With the DeJounte Murray thing, it's interesting because like when all the reports are coming out about like the Knicks being interested in DeJounte Murray, I think it was like to sort of fill this like wing, like this jumbo wing that can like do some like secondary and tertiary playmaking next to a Brunson in the form of like what Mikal gives you. Granted, Mikal was much more expensive than probably DeJounte Murray would cost, but you're also banking on the fact that Mikal will give you much more on both sides of the ball than DeJounte. DeJounte is much more of an idea, I would say, than what he is in actuality. But yeah, I mean, hopefully Mikal can continue. I won't say like I'm not expecting him to give us like 30-point performances all the time, but like, just give us something consistently on both sides of the ball that we can look forward to on a night-to-night basis. Have a high floor. Just have a high floor. Because what we saw during that road trip is not what we want to see on a regular basis. Chris Bernhardt also says, I think Bridges is starting to figure it out offensively. Feels like he's been driving and finishing at the rim more often. I wouldn't say more often. I would say this game. I mean, because like before this game, like he would like get to the rim and like pull up for like the closest mid-range shot you'd ever seen in your life. Or he'd be like right under the basket and like he'd bring it out for like a 7 to 8 foot mid-range jumper. And it was like, you don't need to do that. You can just take it up strong. Again, I'm hoping that this game can start spelling some trends in the positive direction for Mikal Bridges. So yeah, we'll see though. We'll see. Jordan Bubb, most rebounds in the first half for the Knicks. Karl-Anthony Towns 17, 2004-25. Today, of course, Tyson Chandler 17, 2012-13 versus the Warriors. I'm assuming that was the game that Steph Curry went off. Amazing that he was able to actually grab that many rebounds. And Enes Freedom, who I'm so glad I've not seen him on my Twitter timeline recently, with 16 in 2017-18 versus the Celtics. So yeah, I mean, Karl-Anthony Towns was cleaning the glass today. I feel like his numbers rebounding have been way better since he's gotten to the Knicks. And granted, he was playing next to Rudy Gobert last year, so that's why his numbers probably dipped. And he was much more on the perimeter. This year, he's on the perimeter as well, but he's much more closer to the basket as well. But it's just great to see him getting these rebound numbers. As you know, the rebounding has been a strong suit of the Knicks over the last couple of years. So, I mean, and credit to Jericho tonight, too. 13 rebounds. Got a lot of those tip outs. Those offensive rebound tip outs. That was key. Hopefully that's a nice little development that he's been working on, because, part of what has made the Knicks identity over the last couple of years has been, of course, their offensive rebounding. So last Knicks to score 30 plus points and make 7 plus 3-pointers, shooting 63% from the field and 58% from three. It's very hyper specific. I'm assuming this is probably a tweet from one Tommy Beer or someone else on Knicks Twitter. But Mikal Bridges, of course, today. Dante DiVincenzo last year. Jalen Brunson last year. Julius Randle the year before that. And Aaron Aflalo. Wow. Aaron Aflalo. I think I actually remember that Aaron Aflalo game too. Weirdly enough. I think that was the game. Was that game against the Hawks? I weirdly specifically remember that Aaron Aflalo game. And now I have to look it up to make sure, like, I want to actually confirm that now. Aaron Aflalo. Knicks versus Hawks. Forgive me, friends. Yes, it was. It was against the Hawks. Look at me and my memory coming through. 38 points. Aaron Aflalo. 14 of 17 from the field. Super efficient. 7 of 8 from 3. Yeah, he was cooking that game. I remember that game so vividly. I legit thought like the Knicks like were gonna be like a low-seeded playoff team that year. I think as many of us convinced ourselves. But yeah. BX Boy 71, 2 straight opponents held under 100 points. The defense is improving. I mean, sorta, but it's also hard to judge when, like, look at the opponents we're facing. 2 teams that are missing, like, legitimately half of their rotation. Pelicans and the Hornets, like, legitimately missing, like, 5+ rotation players each. So, you also got to put that into perspective. When we have faced tougher opponents, or at least opponents that are at much more full strength, you can see what those numbers look like. So we'll see. I mean, we play the Magic. Magic are another. They're a team that's only shorthanded by Paolo, and they're not a team that really scores that much. I would say they're more defensive oriented. So we'll see how that game goes. That game could actually end up being a rock fight. So, but yeah, I mean, I can't really judge the Knicks defense and say that it's improved that much. Granted, the opponents that we've been facing. So, JL just from Jordan Bud from JL third. Dibs on Macau. He played an all-around game. He liked where his shots came from. Said he kept moving. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I would agree. And, hopefully this builds the confidence him to continue playing like this, Jordan Bub says Brunson, Cat, and OG tonight were shot 30% from the field and 27% from three, and they still won the game by 33 points. Yeah, I mean, that's just what happens when you play a team like the Pelicans, who are a hospital team. Ace Patricia says, I don't really care about Mikhail's offense. A game like this was bound to come at some point, but I need a more consistent effort from him defensively. I agree wholeheartedly. And I think the Magic will be a very interesting game to see. Because are the Knicks going to put him on Franz, who's been pretty damn good this year? Because, I assume OG would be. I mean, you could put OG on him, but I rather OG for that backline support, and be sort of like a roamer, I guess you can say. So we'll see what happens on Tuesday. Tuesday is going to be a very telling game for where the Knicks are, or where we think they are, and how much farther they have to go in the terms of their development as a team. So Tuesday is going to be the game where it's I'm really sitting down analyzing every play. Today is the game where I can turn my brain off, thankfully, and just be ooh, cool dunk, OG. And I mean, yeah, cool dunk, OG, cool block, OG. Nice 3-pointers, Mikal. I don't have to really, but for that Tuesday game, that is that's a cup game. That's past the 20 game threshold that I gave this team grace for. So yeah, we're really going to see where this Knicks team is. Because the Magic have been rolling. Granted, they haven't played that many strong opponents, but still, they're still rolling. They're missing Paolo. Franz is really taking over. So I'm interested to see how we match up with them. And for all I know, I could be saying all this and then they end up blowing out the Magic, or the other way happens. So we'll see. Julie Benchar says he agrees with Ace, but normal shooting and the fact that he got so many points off cuts is a real takeaway. Yeah, I mean, you're hoping that he continues to be confident with these cuts and not shy away from driving to the basket and getting to the basket and making those attempts from there. Because we've all joked about the mid-range shit, but he's legitimately look like he has no interest in taking layups most of his time on the Knicks. That's a reason why he doesn't have as many free throws either. It's if you're driving with intent and purpose, you're gonna get free throws, and that just has not been reflected in his game. So Judah Bench, no, this is from Jordan Bub. The Jays and the Bees. Jordan Bub, JL the third says Thibs said that he thought defensive OG and Mikal set the tone, as well as the rebounding of Cat, for sure. Let's see. All right, Jordan Bub asks, what are my thoughts on the team's performance and record after first 20 games of the season with all of the context? So the context being that this team basically started they had to start over at the start of the season, basically. I mean, right before training camp, they made that trade. And the team has been working through that on both sides of the ball. The 12-8, they're probably actually better than I anticipated they would be at this point. As we know, around this point in the year, in most of the Knicks years, the team has been like floating around 500, and not to like this degree where like they're like 4 games above 500, which is like they're clearly an above 500 team, but like in years past they've always been like either like slightly below, exactly 500, like 1 game above 500, so they're comfortably above 500. I like where this team is inconsistent. I think that's the best way to put it at this point. Like, team's performance so far is inconsistent. And, you know, they have a ways to go still, especially, you know, defensively, they're inconsistent. Offensively, for sure, they're inconsistent. I mean, you have games like the Phoenix game, and then you have games like the Charlotte game. And it's like, you're wondering, how is this the same basketball team? So yeah, I mean, they're able to put up like 100 and like you have games like the Denver game where they put up like 145 points and like they blow Denver out of the water. OG has like 40 points, and then you have games like the Charlotte game where like almost everybody's struggling to score except for Jalen Brunson, and you're like wondering, like, is this the same basketball team we just saw in Denver? So they're inconsistent. You're waiting for them to like legitimately start stacking wins. I've seen fans of other teams, of course, complaining that we have a very soft schedule this coming month. A lot of home games, a lot of games against teams below 500. That's just the nature of the schedule. We don't get to control who the fuck we play and when we play them. Like, if we're playing a bunch of below 500 teams, and like granted, like some of those teams are like the Pistons and probably like the Raptors or whatever it may be, those teams are not like easy games either. Like, those are teams that are like below 500, but they're like competitive still. So, you know, you gotta put that into context as well. But yeah, I mean, I think this team is inconsistent and there's still a ways to go. I think that this next stretch of games will be a good point for us to like really hopefully see them stack some wins and build some consistency on both sides of the ball. But yeah, I mean, they're inconsistent, but they're better than what I thought they would be. So, I mean, that granted, that just shows the level of the top end talent that we have that's able to just kind of like withstand this gelling period as well. So, is there any update on Precious and Mitch? I think Precious, they said he's like day to day, so he should be coming back soon. Not soon as in like the Magic game, but like maybe like 2 or 3 games down the road, I would say probably. HP Shard also says, I just wish both Mikal and OG could have a good shooting game. Yeah, I mean, so far they have not both been able to like put in like efficient like 20 plus point games in the same game. So looks like OG, like I said, man, OG looks like he sold his soul for that 40-point game, man. I said that on Twitter today. Like he sold his soul for that game. Maybe he'll get his soul back for the Magic game. Or not, but we'll see. Brent asks, how many more games till we can say Mikal is here? Not back if he ain't been here for real. How many games can we say that Mikal is here? I would say he has to give us he has to average like for like a good like this next month. He has to average like 20 points per game on like 37% from 3. With great defense. I'm not even gonna say good defense. With great defense, because I know he can do it. That is how many more games we can say Mikal is here. If he can like put together like this like month stretch, because this next month people are saying this is a light schedule for the Knicks. So if this is such a light schedule, Mikal should be able to give us 20 points per game on about 37% from 3 with great defense. That's not impossible. That is my standard for him right now. So, yeah. Jordan Bub says, I think just talking about it, us getting in the locker room as leaders, I feel like the guys on the team stepped up and made sure we were going to go out with a new focus, and that we got the win. Deuce McBride to Bill Pito on how Knicks avoided another flat start to win versus the Pelicans. Yeah, I mean, it was very discouraging seeing the Knicks come out those last two games, put up like 15 points in the Dallas and in the Charlotte game. Granted, Dallas is a better team, but like Charlotte was just not the opponent to be putting up 15 points in a quarter against. But yeah, it was great to see them put up 33 spot tonight and hold the Pelicans to like 10 points in that first quarter. So yeah. Jason Aravallo says also that Mikal hasn't even been trying to cut like that all season. True. I think they just have to look at like what's worked for him in the past, as well as like what's worked for other like Knicks guards in the past as well. Like a Dante DiVincenzo. DiVincenzo did a lot of cutting last year too. So like they have to just make that a point of emphasis for him to like do that, because like those lanes are gonna be there. Guys like Cat and Brunson and Hart, they're gonna try and find him. So hopefully they continue that recipe going forward as well. Jason Aravallo also says, yes, we can't act like all the usual bad teams don't play hard, especially at the beginning of the season. Yeah, and like a lot of these bad teams aren't even like regular bad teams. Like the Raptors are a bad team, but like they're a bad team by like circumstance, in the fact that they've had like just a ton of injuries in the beginning of the year. And they are 6-15. I mean, that's pretty bad, but like I feel like their record just doesn't speak for how well they played. But yeah, let me look at the next schedule, these next couple games, or at least this upcoming month, because people have been saying that, of course, that our schedule was like so easy. So we have the Magic on Tuesday, Hornets on Thursday. Hopefully, Knicks can actually like be for real in that game. And then we have the Pistons. Pistons are another below 500 team, but like even Charlotte's a below 500 team. But look at how we came up against Charlotte, and like look at how they played. Against us, and like they'll probably have some of their players back, not all of them, but they'll probably have some of them back. They play hard. Pistons play hard. Raptors play hard. Then we got the Timberwolves. They're below 500, but like, do we really think they're a below 500 team? We play the Timberwolves on December 19th. That's after like the NBA Cup stuff, and like NBA Cup stuff is a bunch of like whatever teams advance are usually going to be like above 500 teams anyways. Or like even if they're a below 500 team, they're going to be a below 500 team that's like playing really well at that time. So like all this shit about like the Knicks like playing like below 500 teams is like they're below 500, but like these teams don't play like below 500 teams. Or at least like some of the games like the Knicks play against below 500 teams aren't always like what we expect them to be too. So people can have their like criticisms or like say, oh man, it's not fair the Knicks get to do this, but like watch the games. But like, yeah, December 21st, we play the Pelicans again in New Orleans. Maybe they'll have some players back. Maybe they'll have Herb Jones, Jose Alvarado, Brandon Ingram back. Who knows? They play the Raptors again December 23rd. Then on Christmas, we play the Spurs. Spurs are like, what are the Spurs right now? The Spurs they're above 500 actually. They're a decent team. They play the Magic, the Wizards again, then the Jazz, who gave us some trouble. But yeah, the Jazz are January 1st. Yeah, I mean, the Knicks, they do have a lot of below 500 teams, but like they're not like easy teams. Like a lot of teams are playing really hard and really well right now, so but yeah, Brent says I legit ain't realized how mid Mikal has been offensively because we've been so good as a team. Our standards got to be higher for him. I feel like my standards are pretty high for him right now. I think 20 points per game on 37% from three with great defense is a pretty high standard for him. I feel like that just takes our offense to that much of a higher level. And our offense is already like number one in the league or something like that, or like around like the number one offense in the league. So yeah. But yeah, I think that next game is going to be the real, because I know that I've been somebody that said, 20 point, the 20 game mark is like where we like really gotta evaluate this team. But yeah, I mean, we're here at the 20 game mark. They just blew out a significantly worse opponent than they are. And yeah, there's not much really else to talk about with this game. Shout out to everyone that's been here, that's left a comment, that's helped keep this post-game show going. I am probably going to head out of here. Shout out to everyone that tuned in. Make sure you guys leave a like, subscribe. Check out everything in the description. We're doing great things at the site. Make sure you guys follow us wherever we are, which is at Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky, all that good stuff. And yeah, I will catch you guys after the game on Tuesday. Everyone, enjoy the rest of your night and your Monday. Peace.